Hi, I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Hello, Moon to Moon. I'm really excited to be sharing today's conversation with you. It's with James-Olivia of Inquisitive Human, who has one of my most favorite Instagram feeds. I found James-Olivia a couple of years ago, I think, through a friend and client and mentee that I adore. We'll talk about that in the conversation. And I've been sharing James-Olivia's voice in my stories ever since finding their work. I love the way their words are so lovingly provocative. So I want to jump right into the conversation. So let me just share a little bit more about James-Olivia through their bio, and then we'll get into it. James-Olivia is a facilitator and lover of extraordinary, uncomfortable, life-changing conversations, a nurturer of disobedience and regard, an enthusiastic and loving interrogator of reality, a right relationship celebrant, and a fellow work in progress, i.e., inquisitive human and avid maker of mistakes. James-Olivia says, I teach skills for relating competently to difference. And I facilitate and mediate uncomfortable, necessary, life-changing conversations with people who want more joy and connection and less suffering in their most important relationships with themselves, their loved ones, their organizations, and the world. I come to the work of living and leading relationally with the lived experience of moving through life in the U.S. as an autistic, multiracial, and sometimes white-presenting other, quote-unquote, with many other intersecting privileges and marginalized identities. I bring relentless compassion, an unusual perspective, and an eclectic variety of tools to the conversation of expanding our lives and our leadership beyond personal development and into relational thriving. I am learning and unlearning alongside you. I make mistakes and dissect them openly. I give zero fucks about goodness, yours or mine, and have no idea what safe space means to you, nor any interest in creating it for you. Although I'm thrilled to co-create a beautiful life and world with you. I have far more interest in the full spectrum of our humanity and our ability to be with and celebrate discomfort, uncertainty, and difference. So proud and honored to know James-Olivia. Thank you, James-Olivia, for spending time with me and for sharing your voice with listeners of Moon to Moon. So grateful for you in this world. All right, enjoy. Welcome to Moon, James-Olivia of Inquisitive Human. I'm so happy to have you here.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, we have to give a shout out and send some love to our shared friend Molly Wilder, who is definitely how I started following you on Instagram. And that was a couple of years ago, I think. But I just really, really appreciate Molly and value her wisdom. And I've just so loved her encouragement for us to know each other. So,
Yeah,
really grateful and proud for that connection to you.
I love that. I love that she was the last time she was here. She was like, I'm going to take a picture of us together and send it to Britain and encourage her to reach out.
Well, she always speaks your name with such regard. I'm realizing that's a you word, and care and love. And I really trust Molly's knowing about people. And I'm so glad that she sent me to your Instagram because I love questions. I have a series I do here called Living the Questions. And I sort of a way of life for me to feel into the way questions connect us and bridge us to one another. So your Instagram knows I love you because your posts are always at the top.
Oh boy.
And I also just love the sizzle of like it's like generously confrontational. I find your questions and like those types of questions myself and for myself and for questions I like to pose. And yeah, I'm so proud to have you on here so I can learn more about you and meet you and spend time with you because I really, really, really respect the way that you bring your voice into the world. And it's an honor.
Thank you for that. Um, well, where will we go?
Where will we go? I mean, my burning question is to know more about how you came to be inquisitive human. How did, that's a vast question, right? But so just trusting wherever you kind of drop in to naming that, giving that name to yourself and to your, um, shall we say, work in the world and how you came into the format, which is a pretty reliable format. And for most of your posts follow the same format. So
Yeah.
anywhere you'd want to begin, I'd love to learn.
Well, I think long before I was on social media, I'm a sort of late adopter technologically, just generally speaking. Like I still haven't gotten LASIK surgery because I'm like, we just really don't know yet, do we? So I don't know how long Instagram existed before I was like, well, okay, maybe I could try it. like maybe I could get on Facebook. I don't know how long Facebook had existed before I was like, well, maybe I could get on there and then onto Instagram. And I still haven't even gotten that Twitter isn't called Twitter anymore. And I am still not on what used to be Twitter that I still call Twitter. It's so I am in some ways, even though I did have a brief career in technology, I am a bit of a Luddite. So before the format of these almost daily questions that I share on social media, I was inquisitive human before that. And I think I've always known that it's not just the answers that shape us, it's the questions. Like the questions shape our thinking. And so if I'm asking a more expansive question, I will get a more expansive answer.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to trace back in my mind how that came to be. And it may have been in some part from my work in technology. Like bridging between business process and the teams that were creating software to support the business process. I worked in retail for Nordstrom for many years. And moving from the buying office into the IT branch of Nordstrom, it was like, oh, okay, now what my job is doesn't have anything to do with the actual retail, but I have to know the process and I have to translate that process to people who don't know anything about retail. And I'm translating it not knowing really anything about technology. And so the questions that I asked and that we asked each other became really, really important. Like, what kinds of questions are we asking each other to get the answers that we need to be able to do anything that's relevant? And that was really practical. Like, that's just, okay, how do we do business? But also for me, it's like, well, okay, and how do I want to live my life? What kind of life do I want to live? What kind of relationships do I want to have? What kind of world do I want to live in? And the kinds of questions I ask are going to shape the answers.
Yes. And so um, I'm curious when you began to bring that into something that looks more like the current shape of your practice.
Oh my God. One of the things that I have been somewhat negligent about lately, just like in recent past, but that I've been more or less consistent with throughout my life is having a daily writing practice.
Mm.
And very often, like the morning pages idea, like the Julia Cameron morning pages idea of like, just sit down and start writing for 3 pages. I can do that. And often I will find myself writing things like, I don't want to be writing right now. I hate everyone and everything today. Like, this seems very silly and boring. And I'm just writing nonsense which is, I think, what she talks about, that you can be writing nonsense until the real stuff starts to surface and come out of you. And for me, I'm a little bit more impatient than that. And I'm like, I want something to write about. I want a prompt. I want something to think about. And
Mm.
like, I want an actual thing to grapple with. I don't want my brain just wading into the swamp and finding, like, is that a root or an alligator? I don't know. Like, like I would rather have that I can something that feels a little bit more tangible that I can chew on. So for me, it's maybe it's an avoidance of uncertainty, that like, okay, if I'm shaping these questions, then I can shape what I'm grappling with.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so do the questions that you share publicly come from your own practice?
Sadly, yes.
Exactly.
Embarrassingly, yes, they do. Like, I am sharing questions that I am asking myself very often. And
Mhm.
when I'm sharing questions, sometimes I'm asking questions that I would like to be asking other people, like, well, where are you doing this thing? And I very often am confronted by, that's none of your business where somebody else is doing this. And I have to turn it around and go, okay, where am I doing that? Like, what does this look like in my life
Yes.
practice?
Yeah. I really feel that your use of the I pronoun is incredibly invitational because you're letting us see your own messiness and your humanity, your own humanity and your own like, wow, okay, they're bringing us into their process, and I know that question too, or at least I didn't know it until it was just spoken, and then but then it kind of swerves to the reader where then you kind of ask it to your, it's like I can ask myself that because Inquisitive Human is asking themselves that. And
Yeah.
we're now asking ourselves this question, you know? That's what it feels like creatively to be a participant in your world.
I'm glad to hear that. That is because I don't have any attachment to anybody else asking themselves these things. And like this may not be for you. This may not be like today's question may not be your question. It may just be a thing you look at and go, thank God James-Olivia is asking themselves that because they need to.
Oh my gosh. But I think it would be fun to give an example. Do you mind if we just
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah.
roll over to you may not be able to see what I'm pulling up, so I'll pull up Instagram. I'm going to stop that share and I'll bring it to here. Um the two I was thinking about playing with are these the one I guess from probably today and
Oh,
then the one
Jesus
right
Christ.
underneath it. So the this one that is 4 days ago.
Ah, yeah.
Here we are. Where do I accuse, blame, or condemn another for treating me with the disregard I so freely offer them? And then, and the reader's like, oh God, where do I accuse? It really like opens the door that that might be here. Okay. Um, listening, slide. Do I enrage myself when I encounter another's self-righteousness or superiority? How did they not see that I know better than they do? That was a parenthetical. Do I raise my voice at someone in my efforts to make them listen to me? Can they not see that I aim to be heard by them, not to hear them? Do I weaponize someone else's values as though their integrity is my business to scrutinize? Am I hoping they will not see my own house in disarray? Do I lash out and attempt to tear someone else down when I feel hurt or afraid? Am I unwilling to feel my own pain unless I am sure that others are also in pain with me? Do I tell myself and others that I have been misunderstood and villainized by the very person I am actively villainizing and whom I have very likely and possibly willfully misunderstood? I cannot know you without you. I cannot know and be known without me. Oh my gosh. I'm going to stop share just so I can see you. Yeah. Listeners, these are the questions.
Yeah. I really don't like my own provocations. It's not that like this process, this practice is not a fun practice for me. I don't enjoy it and it is necessary for me.
Yeah.
Kind of like taking my spiritual vitamins. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
swallow this, but I need it.
Yeah. I was reading your beautiful Some Things I Believe at your website,
Mm.
which I really love. I just really love contemplating and meditating what others hold to be true and then really feeling it in the like things that I see on the it's almost like these are the roots and I see the fruits and then you're showing the roots of where those things come from, and you said something like about the discomfort. I believe in the power of discomfort and its inseparability from growth. I believe in listening and learning without ceasing. I believe we are all works in progress and we are responsible for choosing the best teachers available to us at any given stage of our lives. The ones who show us how to live what we believe, who hold us to our high standards and then raise them. I believe we can always do better. There's joy in trying and even greater joy in trying together. Yeah, it feels to me like the discomfort you're willing to engage with in order to know and understand living as yourself and how that invites us in does create paradoxically joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I imagine that that's part of your teaching containers, this kind of loop between the discomfort and then the growth and joy.
I hope so. That is my aim. That is sometimes true and sometimes not, but it's what I hope for. Yeah.
hmm Yeah. I love that in your bio, you are so honest with like what I bring to work. Um, questions and observations, powerful, uncomfortable, inappropriate, sometimes weirdly obvious, awkward silences, space to answer and to astound yourself. I just love that because awkward silences is like the terror of growing up, I feel like.
Say more. I don't think I've ever heard it described as terror, and I want to know about that. That's amazing.
I know that my younger self was absolutely horrified of all free spaces. So, like time not filled, and then the space between me and another person not being filled. That like it just felt like touching the uncertainty of everything, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting to think about like what was the fear, but I did feel like somehow it was my responsibility to just like keep filling.
Yeah. Like something horrible might fill that space if you didn't.
Yeah. And I mean, I kind of know, I think it was to avoid feeling, especially feeling grief and uncomfortable things.
Yeah. Oh, grief is coming up so much lately. And not like grief isn't always coming up, but um, but it seems to be really in my sight line recently. How how vital, how critical and necessary it is to be with the grief that is present because every other piece of relational fuckery I get up to, I'm learning and noticing can track back to me not tending to my own grief. Like that the awkwardness of the silence, the terror of the silence, the ways that I try to control or lash out or avoid, like whatever it is I'm up to, I'm seeing that grief isn't always at the heart of it, but it can very often be tracked back to where am I not feeling the things that are mine to feel and trying to get dynamics or other people or my own chatter to get in the way of that feeling and not have to feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like the under, the under thing, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. I am really interested in shame, and a lot of my speaking into the world is about shame. And it does feel like grief is the under of the shame too. That the world is like the way it is for the child that felt the shame initially. Yeah. Um, yeah, then you also had awkward and honest blurts.
Yeah, that might just be an autistic thing, or I'm not going to blame it all on that, but yeah, there's a lot of awkwardness and a lot of blurting.
Well, saying you're bringing that is very welcoming for anyone afraid to show up because they're afraid to that their blurting will be a problem, you know.
Sometimes it is. I'm sometimes it's kind of a problem. And I'm competent to navigate the consequences of my blurts. Like I can relate through that. Like, oh, that was really awful for you, or that was like cringy, or you have judgments about that. Let's hear about them. Like I can relate competently to the difference that arises in the aftermath of one of my blurts.
That's that's it, right? Is like cultivating the self-trust that you can be with whatever comes into the space between you
Yeah.
and another.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't always have the capacity. Like there are moments when I'm like, oh, I just don't like I don't have the space inside me to be with whatever I've got and whatever the other person's got around it, but I know how. So
Hmm. Yeah. I'm like feeling myself wanting to go back to the one you posted today
oh God. Yeah, that one's very, very fresh as it's today.
because
Not all
it's
of them are fresh.
today.
Some of them are recycled. Like I will pull up things that feel more or less relevant and I've already written them, but there are several recently that I'm like, oh no, that is happening right now. These are the things that I'm like, these are new questions.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to read them.
Okay.
Shall I?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. I'm along for
Pe-
the ride.
People who cannot or will not acknowledge and respect my own boundaries may interpret my limits as indifference, abandonment, or violence. Am I willing to regard my limits anyway? People whose pain eclipses their current capacity for connection may interpret my unwillingness to emotionally overextend myself as a lack of care. Am I willing to regard my limits anyway? People whose identity is closely tied to the ways in which they have been hurt or wronged may only be able to see me as either an abuser, a savior, or a fellow victim. Am I willing to regard my limits anyway? People who struggle to differentiate between someone else's actions and their own feelings may seek co regulation by demanding performative accountability or compliance. Am I willing to regard my limits anyway? Am I willing and able to acknowledge my own participation in dynamics of emotional coercion? Am I willing and able to compassionately regard that others are doing the best they can to get their needs met? Am I willing and able to make decisions that honor my will, my capacity, and my care for others? Hmm.
Sometimes I hear my own questions and I'm like, boo, put it back.
I personally um really resonated with these questions because I my younger self had a lot of, and I still see my younger selves as always with me, um, a lot of confusion around where I'm responsible and not responsible.
Yes.
So that one really resonates in terms of kind of just allowing that you can one cannot control how others feel about what you may or may not be responsible for. As it feels like that's what I'm hearing. I'd love to hear more about um, today's questions, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, well, that hits on a lot of it. Like, what am I responsible for and what is not mine at all to carry? And I think there's a lot of tension in this always, particularly where you actually care a lot about other people. Like whether it's generally speaking, I care about people, or specifically, I care about this person. I care about this person in this relationship. And there's a tension between I know that I have impact. I know that my words, my actions, my stillnesses, my silences have an emotional wake for another person, for other people, or for a specific person, and being considerate, like that I am in relationship with other beings, and that is impactful. Like there's no avoiding impact in relationship. It will happen. And that doesn't mean positive or negative. It's just like things happen. There are consequences. There are relational consequences. And that tension between I'm responsible for my words, my silences, my actions, my stillnesses. I'm responsible for what I contribute to the ecosystem that we share. And other people are responsible for their interpretations and their beliefs and their stories, and that other people's experiences are happening inside them, just like mine. My experiences are happening inside me. Our circumstances are happening to us, right? Like if I come up and I flick you in your ear and you're like, ow, like, yes, that actually happened. I did that to you. Like I physically did something to you and it happened to you. And then what you do with that, what you make that mean, how you choose to engage with yourself and with me, those are yours. And I don't get a say.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and likewise, and there are consequences to me as well in my relationship with you. You might one of the consequences might be, you know, I really don't want to be in any kind of friendship or acquaintanceship with anybody who doesn't respect my bodily autonomy and my physical boundaries. And I might be like, I don't like that consequence, and it's a consequence nonetheless. Like you get to say that's not a relationship that is healthy for me. I don't want that. And I might come up to you and say, "Oh, Britton, it's so nice to meet you, and I love the color of your sweater." I actually can't tell if it's a sweater. I'm saying real things right now. Yeah. Like I love the texture and the color and the pattern of your sweater. It's just lovely to me. And you might say, "Oh, how wonderful. That impacts me in such a nice way. I feel very good about that." Or you might say, "How dare you comment on my appearance and my style? That is none of your business. I want to be known for my intelligence and my like what I contribute to the world. And you are the most superficial person. And I don't get a say in how you receive what I just said to you. I say what I say and you receive what you receive. And how you receive is not mine. It can't be my responsibility because it's not within my scope of power."
Hmm.
I can take that information and go, okay, noted. Now I have more information and I can engage with Britton in a different way next time if I want a different relational result. But I still don't get a say in what you did with what I said. Okay, what is the giggle? What is the laugh? Tell me more.
It's it highlights the how fraught it is to be humans relating where
It's,
so you're telling me that I can't make you understand what I meant, you know? Um, yeah. And it's such a brave business to be humans may having impact on one another. And there's a lot of confusion. I think we just have a lot of confusion from the way many of us were raised around what's our responsibility there.
yeah. And once you introduce then also people's trauma, their histories of abuse, their histories of oppression and marginalization, their like what people bring um, with where their ideas of themselves in the world have been shaped by how other people have already treated them. Now we're getting into like really sticky territory. And that's what today was about. It's like, this is so sticky. And given how sticky it is, am I still willing to regard that I get to have limits and make space for
Mhm.
myself?
Yes, I would love to pause then on your word regard and just let you speak some to how you circle to this word and speak this word into the space. What does it feel like to you?
At its very basic, for me, it's consideration. Like that I have consideration for the inherent dignity of another being, like the wholeness and necessity of their existence, even if I don't like them,
Mhm.
um, even if I am afraid or displeased or disgusted that that when I put aside my own my own personal opinions and reactions and judgments, that I can at least consider, oh, you are a dignified, sovereign being with inherent humanity and that you are whole. And when I think about regard as just a baseline consideration, I think that doesn't really cover it for me though. When I'm thinking about a deep practice of regard, I'm actually, and this is a word from Ernie Meadows, who uh, is sort of he is the originator of the skills that I teach, the 4 skills that I teach for relational competence. But his word for it was prize, to prize another, to prize yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, I like how regard reminds me of looking, and I'm thinking of the French word, and in that way, it feels like attunement. Oh, I think that if we're willing to attune to another, we'll start to see the inherent dignity. And it feels like, and your questions bring this up in me sometimes, like where there's a fear in actually seeing someone's dignity because it will be in conflict to the decisions we've made about our identities and things like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I sorry, my brain sometimes does this. I call it the typewriter jam, where a lot of thoughts come out at once and then all the keys go. Um, so those are the awkward silences, by the way. um, I've been kind of pondering this idea, particularly around the the worldview or the paradigm of specifically social justice spaces. And I might get myself into trouble here. So um, let me consider my words for a moment. That there's a particular worldview of there is only good and evil, there's only the oppressor and the oppressed, there's only right and wrong, this sort of paradigm of judgment. And where did my brain just go? Sometimes it also just disappears. The line of thought will just go away. Um, no, it really just blanked. How about that? Can you
I
remind
feel
me?
like you're you may be bridging to one of my favorite posts you ever did, which was like not caring about goodness. Um, in the sense of when we're, and this can happen in social justice spaces and as well as all kinds of certainty spaces that exist in our world, right? That like,
Religious. Yeah.
yeah, like it's all at the end of the day, did I come off as a good person?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't leave room. Oh, exactly what you were talking about. Thank you for that. If I attune to you deeply enough to, and I don't know if this is causative, like I can attune to you in order to deeply regard your humanity, or I can decide to deeply regard your humanity and then have
Mm,
availability to attune to you. So I think you can
I like
go
that.
from either direction or any other direction. But if I'm in this zero sum paradigm where one of us has to be good and one of us has to be bad, or I've already decided that you are oppressed and I am the oppressor, or the other way around. Like if I attune to you and your humanity and I regard the wholeness of your humanity and regard that like maybe neither of us are good nor bad. Maybe we are both um, marginalized in the way we are, and we both have privileges that we have. We both like that there's room for everyone in everyone in the house to be having a full experience of humanity. Um, if I'm not open to that, then I will have a very, very difficult time practicing regard. Like I won't be open to it. I won't want to do it because it will threaten my worldview.
Yeah. And I think this is where I love how your work is speaking to like the realness of where we are in the world. 2025 now. I mean, you wrote under Inquisitive Human, more joyful connection, less suffering. Like, um, I get into good personism in the shame stuff that I talk about. Like, it does feel so frightening to release attachments to trying to be a good person. And also, you start to see how much suffering there was in it. Yeah. And it feels like this is it. Like, this is how we move. What do we do now? You know, like it's going to have to be through connecting to each other.
Oh boy, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. But we haven't spoken about your chart yet. I did want you to know, I don't know if you know this, but your Virgo rising, which means you're the planet that's like your bud, you know, like your best bud, your teacher, who's like kind of whispering in your ear. We would say in astrology, take it or leave it, would be Mercury. And your
Uh-huh.
Mercury is in Gemini, the other
Uh-huh.
Mercury ruled sign at your midheaven, at the top of the chart, your most public place. And it's so great because to me, Mercury is in asking questions and staying curious and keeping it playful and making it fun and being neutral, as in like neither good, bad, not trying to be winning trophies for goodness.
Mhm.
um, we actually like break up the heaviness of what we're talking about here
Yeah.
because it like Mercury just has a way of moving between realms, psychopomp, and everything can become a game. And isn't that more fun? And I feel like questions can become a way to. open portals
Mhm.
where we feel stuck in like a how do we hold all this heaviness.
Yeah, I want to give credit to one of my teachers, Desiree Attaway, who just so generously offers questions as well. And I think while I have always engaged with questions, it was her practice of asking questions. And she came out with a couple of card decks years ago um, that offered contemplations with journaling prompts that were always questions. And that was part of what allowed me to consider the possibility of like, ooh, I could just share my questions. Like I could just share them every day and this could be an offering, a thing. But one of her questions, actually two of her questions have completely changed my life and how I relate. And one of them was, what do you believe? What do you believe in? Just as a journaling prompt. And that page that you read from, like, I believe, my little statements of belief, that came from her offering that question.
mm,
Saying, like, what do you believe? What do you believe in? Write it down and declare it. And a second question that she's offered, multiple times in different spaces. And every time I'm just like, oh, thank you. Is when we're grappling with how do we how do we lovingly correct someone? How do we share what we have when there's a big difference? How do we have courageous conversations with people in disagreement? How do we navigate our most challenging moments with other human beings? And her question was, well, what do you want your relationship to look like when this conversation is over? Because there's not
mm,
a right or wrong answer. It's not, well, you must be firm in your convictions, or you must never compromise, or you must not do this, or you must do that. It was, you get a say, you get a choice in how you want to treat the people around you and what kind of relationship you want to cultivate with them. And so, with your nana, you might not want to have a fight about certain civil rights, or you might want to.
mm,
You know,
mm,
maybe with Uncle Jim at the Thanksgiving table, you don't necessarily care about what that relationship's going to look like because you're not going to see him until next Thanksgiving. And what you're going to do is tell him who the what right now in front of the whole family. Like, or the person on the street that you may never see again and they come up to you and like start something, you might just be like, I don't want to engage with this at all, ever. Um, but the question isn't what is, or the answer isn't, which thing is the right thing or the wrong thing to do. It's what kind of relationship do you want to have at the end of this conversation?
yeah. I think that's so powerful because I think my younger self felt like I had no say in it. It was just gonna be what happened to me in the conversation. And it
Yeah.
was like forgetting tools. Um, Here it comes. I'm about to be overcome. You know,
Mhm.
the replacing of agency is so powerful. I think there are a couple things I wanted to draw out here too, which is like I love the model of holding authority and quote unquote expertise through questions, like as opposed to statements, um, that it is an unlearning of pictures of people of authority to build community around sharing your own personal question process. And I think that that is really a powerful piece of your work because there are many people out there who may feel like they don't know how to share their voice in a way that would be magnetic or in a way that would be meaningful or impactful if they don't like already have the answers and know how to be experts at anything that they're interested in sharing about. But yet, all of us are intuitive and we can tune into how to reflect on something as a question. And through that, we can actually come into our authority, it feels like.
That's what I want. Like, that's exactly what I want. I love hearing this because it's so funny. I was thinking about the question, who is the authority, right before you asked, or right before you went down this path. When I think about the word authority, like authorship, who gets to write the story? Who's the narrator? Who's the storyteller? Who owns this story? And for me, the only story I own is mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am an authority on my own experience. I am an authority on my own beliefs. I am an authority on my own knowledge. But I'm not an authority on your experience or your beliefs or your knowledge. I have no fucking clue what you know and don't know. I do not know what you've experienced in your lifetime. I don't know what you need. I don't know what you care about. And so when I ask the question, to me, it's not that I don't want to know what you care about and what you need. I do want to know. I don't want to own that. I don't want to be responsible for your stuff. I want to be responsible for my stuff. Like, I want to participate in life with you, and I don't want to be the authority on everybody's story. I don't want knowledge and connection and play and learning to be a dictatorship. Like this, an authoritarian is different than an authority. And I don't want anything authoritarian about it. I don't even want people to pick up my questions if they're not the right questions for them. If they're like, yeah, this doesn't even apply to me. It's like, well, then why would you engage with that? Go,
Mm-hmm.
go write yourself a much better question for you.
Yes. Yeah. I feel it is a way of like disarming questions. I feel like there's a way of like disarming the part of us that is terrified of power because of models that we don't like,
Mhm.
of like winding us to understanding author authority in a way that we can hold because it's not controlling the questions in your model. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm actually thinking about the Blackfoot model of like where Maslow's hierarchy of needs took the Blackfoot model and sort of reduced it down to just the individualistic parts. I think it's useful, like
Mm-hmm.
the physical needs and emotional needs and psychological, but they're all personal. They're all intellectual, or not. I'm sorry, individual. They're all individual. And the Blackfoot model is like at the base of it is self-actualization.
Mm.
And it's not necessarily hierarchical, I don't think, but representing that at the base of it is self-actualization, at the top of it is cultural perpetuity, like in between is like here's community and connection with other people and cultural perpetuity, but the foundation is folks have to self-actualize for this cultural, for the health of community, for the health of the whole, the collective. Um, and so thinking about, if we as selves, as individuals, don't don't understand that we do have impact, Like if I'm walking around going, oh, well, your stuff is your stuff, and I actually don't have any impact, that's a lie. I'm walking around in sort of this veil of deception, self-deception, that what I do, what I decide, what I speak, and how I act isn't meaningful and impactful on the beings around me, human and otherwise. And so it's in my self-interest for other people to know and claim their own agency and their own power, to know that, like, oh yeah, I matter. It's in my self-interest for you to know that you matter.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Yeah, and in this way, we get to like the thing that I really wanted to make sure we spoke to was your phrasing, the disobedience of inquiry. I
Mm.
like really, really get excited when I see the word disobedient or disobedience. Um, because, well, I would love to hear you share your attraction to this word.
Um, well, so I used to have this thing. I was actually talking to my dear friend Ludley about this. I used to have a thing called disobedience school for
Amazing.
humans raised to be good girls and nice guys, which is deliberately gendered because I think that like interrogating the gender binary is also necessary, a necessary disobedience. But to me, inquiry is the first disobedience, just questioning, like, is what I believe or what I've been taught about the world true? Is what I've been told about you true? Is what I've been told about myself true? Is this true? And are you familiar with Bobby Harrow's cycle of socialization and cycle of liberation?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm going to have to send you a
I
link.
know. I've got
If
so many
you
good sources today.
want to put a link in the show notes, let me just make a note for myself to send you this.
Okay. I'm
And
writing it down too.
okay, I'm writing it on a napkin. This is how functional. Okay, Bobby Harrow to Britain. Okay, I will send you links. So Bobby Harrow has um, what's called the cycle of socialization, and she talks about how we're just born into the context we're born in. We don't have a say. Like we're born with the privileges that we have, the disadvantages that we have, the ways that we're marginalized, the beliefs that surround us, and there's no blame and no guilt in that. We didn't ask to get born into the context that we got born into. Just we show up and here we are. Like I showed up, and there was a gender binary, and there was heteronormativity, and there was racism, and there was ageism, and there's capitalism. Like all of these things existed before me. And I showed up, and here I am in them, and you too. And then these things are reinforced through our families of origin, whoever raised us, through the institutions that we go through, school, church, the medical system, the justice system, the media that we're surrounded with, like all of these societal things, kind of from here I am in the womb and somebody's asking if I'm a boy or a girl, like the gender binary already exists before I'm even born. It exists for me even before I'm born. And I'm born, and from the most proximate relationships I have with people who are raising me, to like as I go out, here's society reinforcing over and over all of these different systems and worldviews. And it's just a cycle. Like, and then I actually don't have children, but say I'm a person who has children, I do the same thing with my children. Now they're born into the same systems that I was born into the same worldviews and the same beliefs. And to exit that cycle, like if this cycle is an oppressive cycle, if this cycle doesn't allow for everyone to thrive, my first act of exiting this cycle of oppression and socialization in that into a cycle of liberation is to question it. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Like, why do we do it this way?
Yeah. Is this good for everyone? Does this, like, am I okay with this? Does this feel good to me? Are people thriving? Is this just? Does this all track with the spiritual and religious views that I am being taught? Do the practices of this society track with the things that I'm learning in school? Like, I just start to question because there are points of dissonance, cognitive dissonance all over our lives. And when we encounter cognitive dissonance, we have the option of going, oh no, that's just the way things are, and tucking it away and, having a little, for me, like having a little smoke or whatever I do, and just move on and go about our merry way. Or we ask questions like, is this what? What is happening here? Is this okay? Is this true? And that is the first step out of that cycle of how we are socialized into the cycle of liberation.
Yeah. And it's really profound too to to feel into how even like the question of how am I can become a fraught one to go to if answering it is going to begin leading to some of those cracks.
Oh, yeah. I think in the
Ooh.
5 years, I don't think I've been asked how I am and been like, fine. I think I've just been like, oh, things are weird. It's a lot. Like just even acknowledging the reality of your own body, the reality of your own state in any given moment is answering a question that takes you out of it's fine, everything's fine. I keep going without questioning any of it.
Hmm. Yeah. It has its own motion. It feels like these cycles. So it's like actually a question has the power to like slow down and stop the momentum of what you're in a way that then becomes the disobedience, I suppose. Hmm. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, James-Olivia.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been very joyful for me. Thanks for having me.
Do you have anything opening up in the spring? I know you have a handful of regular containers. Is this true?
I have one called Regard.
Yes.
That is an online space where we meet is it from sometime I never remember the months. I know it's 10 of them. So May, June, July. Okay, August. I think we start in August. I could be wrong about that. I'd have to consult my own website and my own calendar. But August through May, let's say roughly August through May, where we meet online for a few hours every couple weeks, like every 2 weeks, we come together as a group, and that is a group of 8 participants and me. So we get the nice Brady Bunch 9 box thing happening on the screen when everybody's there, which is visually very nice for me. That is a longer term group that meets more regularly to explore right relationship. Like, what does it mean to regard myself and others simultaneously in the relationships that I'm engaged in? And then I teach skills, relationship competence skills. So the skills of empathy, not an attribute. Not I can't make a sociopath have empathy, but I can teach the skill of following another person and being with them in their experience. So the 4 skills are empathy, empathic listening, which is listening for what's really happening with that person and getting confirmation that you're getting them. congruence. So that's the skill of showing up with what you have in the moment, like coming authentically to the conversation. And then unconditional positive regard is the other skill. So having regard for another being that you're in conversation with without having any conditions that they agree with you, that they like you, that they respect you, that they're better than they are, or they're different in any way, that just like, here they are, their whole messy self. And you can choose at will to regard that and to regard yourself in your own mess too. So that is, we start in May, at the end of May, and there's a group that has a couple seats left in it. We have 4 people max at any given time in those groups, because it's such an intense experiential, like we're actually practicing the skills. It's not just like, here, let's watch some videos and talk about the skills. It's like, okay, let's get into an actual conversation where we're going to introduce some difference and you get to practice using these skills in real time.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's in person. That's in Chicago. So
that's in person. Okay, in Chicago. In May.
In May. We start in May. We do 3 intensive days in May, and then there like 8 to 10 weeks of integration time. Then we do another 3 days of intensive, like practice again. Let's come back. Let's play. Let's have some fun with it, and maybe cry a little bit about it. I don't know. And and then have another break for integration, and then we come back for 3. So 9 days total, spread out over 5 or 6 months.
Wow, that is potent. I'm already feeling like that's scary.
Ask Molly about it. Molly just finished, and brilliantly, I may add. And Molly was in the first group that I did in person. I used to teach the skills online, and through some massive confrontation with myself and my work, I made the decision that I wanted to teach in a more embodied way, teach these skills in an embodied way in person. So Molly was part of that first group that came through in person. And I hope she had as much fun as I did. I really
I believe it. I believe it. It can be fun and scary. My daughter has a word. She said when she was little, nervous-sided, which is kind of like, I like to do things that make me nervous-sided.
Yeah.
And so I'll include for listeners all the links so folks can connect with you. And just thank you so much. Have a beautiful spring. I'm so glad to have had this time with you.
Thank you very much, Britton.
Thank you, James-Olivia, for your time, for your wisdom. Thank you for sharing your voice on Moon to Moon. Listeners, through the links in the bio, you have everything that you need to follow and work with James-Olivia if you resonate with their voice. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're doing well. I hope this spring is emerging with glee for you, with ease for you. If you love Moon to Moon and you haven't left a review yet, I hope that you will take a moment to do that now. It really, really helps the podcast find others who are yearning for it. And it can be very short. You don't have to say much, but I'm almost to 100 reviews, and it would be so meaningful to get to 3 digits. My goodness. We're 5 years into Moon to Moon now, and it's such an honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time.